We're a religious community. We're a spiritual community. We're a community of values, of memory, and of hope. I know when I hear the story of the Good Samaritan, I agree with Carl Sandburg. Sometimes I'm an eagle that soars, and sometimes I just want to be a hippo that wallows in the mud, honestly. But H.L. Mencken said in the early 70s that he heard a talk radio person go on and on and on, and I never felt, he said, I never felt so much like the humanist and liberal that I really am, and that's where I stand. That's where I take my location. A religious community locates itself, theologically locates itself. Traditionally, theology says, what is a human being? What is the world? What is God, or what is the divine? What is the eternal? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be here in the world? What does it mean to have this perception of something universal or eternal inside of ourselves or in our midst? We ask ourselves those questions, and I would say there's a fourth part to theology that it's now time to bring into mainstream theological discourse, and that's location. Because your answer to all those questions are going to be completely influenced by where you are, by what your commitments are, by who you have found yourself to truly be, by where you are sociologically, economically, geographically, what it means to be a human being, what it means to be here in this world, what it means to perceive something greater than ourselves from our own location. Martin Luther King Jr. took up his location as the person educated from a family of ministers. When I went to Harvard, I was looking for his dad's sermons, and I couldn't find them in the divinity school. Finally, I went to the music department. His dad's sermons were all recorded and stored in the music department because of the cadence and the strength and the musicianship in the very way he spoke. Martin Luther King Jr. took his location, his heredity, his place in America of his times, and took his statement of value. We have to locate ourselves historically and in time. We also want to locate ourselves spiritually. A colleague of mine just sent this lovely story from a conversation she just had. Unitarian Universalist member made a special date with her to go out to lunch. Yesterday afternoon, I visited with a Holocaust survivor, she says. A member of the congregation I served for so long. And for the first time, I talked to him about telling his story to the whole congregation. I think I'll never forget him sitting with his arms crossed in a way that made visible the numbers tattooed on his forearm. As a Holocaust survivor, he was saying he wanted children to know one thing. If you let hatred for one person or one group of people get into your heart, it makes it easier for you to hate others. Then hate is in you, he said, and it's hard to get out. Don't let it in, no matter what. It takes work, but don't let it in. We locate ourselves as a religious community in our time and our place to understand what we are called to do. We locate ourselves spiritually with our commitments to love. And we locate ourselves on this earth in the inextricable web of all life. Martin Luther King Jr. went through a kind of evolution of thought where he increasingly understood that his cause, his perspective, was tied to all other peoples and indeed to the planet itself. He said, here's a Bible, here's a scripture. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We're made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. The interrelated structure of reality. What is a human? What is the world? What is the perception of that which transcends us? What can we see from our location? We can see the interrelated structure, the very fabric of reality itself. Did you ever stop to think that you can't leave for your job in the morning without being dependent on most of the rest of the world? He says. You get up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, you reach over the sponge, and that's been handed to you by a Pacific Islander. You reach for a bar of soap, and that's given to you at the hands of somebody from France. Then you go into the kitchen, you drink your coffee for the morning, that poured into your cup by a South American worker. Maybe you want tea, that came from China. Maybe you're desirous of having cocoa, that's poured into your cup by a West African person. And then you reach over for your toast, and that's been given to you at the hands of an English-speaking farmer, not to mention the baker. And before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you've depended on more than half the world just to get through it. This is the way the universe is structured. This is its interrelated quality. We aren't going to have peace on earth until we recognize this basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality. We have had some chilly times among us here in the weather. We have some cold times in the nation. And politically, our hearts chill, we shiver. And yet we remember that there is a community of people who honor us. Each and every one of us is honored. As we ask that question, what does it mean to be a person? What does it mean to be me? What does it mean to be in the world? What does it mean to transcend from where I sit? From where I sit, my heart is chilled because my sister has COPD, and without extensive medical and medicine assistance, her death will be hastened. And so I have joined all those around the nation who are picking up their telephones and finding the name of someone who may not vote, who will not vote, to continue the kind of help that my sister needs. And each of us is telling a real story. I say, I love my sister. She has a terminal illness. It can go for decades of a quality of life unless she doesn't receive the care she needs. Please help my sister. And so I ask if any of you can authentically say, you know someone, you are someone, and you are willing to tell that story and say, can you, staffer, can you say to me that you will help my sister live, and let that silence linger? Don't fill it in. Don't make them feel better. Nobody feels good here. Whatever they say, ask the question again. Can you give me a promise that my sister's medicines are going to be there? That her life will be supported? That her family who loves her, that her granddaughter, her grandniece, I'm the grandma, that her grandniece will continue to receive her loving gifts of books, the thing that she can continue to do in her fragile state that honors her life as a librarian. Can you give me an assurance that my sister will not die? Call again, call another person, call and call again, against all hope, against all reason. Locate ourselves as religious people in the world, in an interrelated world, with what privilege we do have. I was really touched when I was reading Martin Luther King Jr.'s stories and writings by how much his thinking had evolved and how much he changed and widened and deepened his perspective. We believe in evolution, people. We believe in this. In the deep structure of the world, evolution can happen, is happening. And we know that there are dead ends and setbacks, but we see an arc. Religiously, we would say it's a long arc. An arc of the universe. Martin Luther King Jr. quoted our Unitarian minister, William Ellery Channing, who first talked about it in the 1840s. The arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Let's do that. Let's each take a step as a religious person. Let's each make a motion. Let's each contribute from our location toward the next step in an evolving universe, that we should lend our weight to that bend towards justice.